How's it going, guys? I'm Dustin Davis, and today we're covering the hottest Dolphin stories. The Dolphins stood at a crossroads this season, their choices measured not in headlines, but in silence. While front offices across the league reshuffled rosters and stockpiled draft picks, Miami's leaders remained cautious, weighing the cost of change against the value of continuity. The question wasn't simply who might leave, it was whether the organization believed its current foundation could still support championship ambitions. Beneath the surface, tension simmered. Contract realities and performance gaps created friction between what the roster promised and what it delivered. Leadership faced uncomfortable truths about aging deals, underperforming investments, and the narrow window remaining to compete in an unforgiving division. Every decision carried weight. Every non-decision spoke volumes. The path forward remains uncertain. Miami's identity, built on speed, explosive playmaking, and offensive creativity, now sits vulnerable to the same forces that challenge every NFL franchise: money, age, and time. What comes next will define not just a season, but an era. Let's check out some great moves. First of all, let me take a moment to ask for your help. If you enjoy our videos, give us a like. It's a great way to keep the content going. Thanks for the support. Mike McDaniel's patience wore thin when reporters pressed him repeatedly about Miami's quiet approach to the trade deadline. Industry insiders had anticipated activity from the Dolphins before Tuesday's cutoff, yet the team executed just one move, sending edge rusher Jaelan Phillips to Philadelphia in exchange for a 2026 third-round selection. McDaniel explained that no proposal rose to the level where it justified altering the roster's composition. The franchise had just removed Chris Grier from the general manager position days earlier, promoting Champ Kelly to the interim role with minimal time before the deadline arrived. That leadership transition sparked widespread belief around the league that Miami might adopt a more aggressive posture toward dealing veteran contracts than it had shown under Grier's tenure. Reporting from Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler at ESPN confirmed that other clubs inquired about both Jaylen Waddle and Bradley Chubb, but Miami declined to engage seriously on either player. One source indicated the asking price for Waddle started at a first-round pick, a steep demand given his 3-year, $84.75 million extension signed in 2024. McDaniel described the decision-making framework as collaborative, involving direct dialogue with owner Stephen Ross and other executives throughout the organization. He characterized the deadline window as a period of constant communication across the league, with teams probing for any marginal advantage they could secure. Miami participated in those conversations but never encountered an offer that justified moving cornerstone assets. The Phillips transaction did, however, bolster the team's draft position. Miami now holds 5 picks within the first 3 rounds of the 2026 draft, capital that will anchor any offseason roster overhaul. Contract structures and salary cap mechanics influenced how Miami evaluated potential trades. Bradley Chubb carries no remaining guarantees on the 5-year, $110 million deal he signed in 2022 and restructured this offseason. Releasing or trading him after June 1st would create approximately $20 million in cap relief. Similarly, Tyreek Hill, who suffered a season-ending dislocated knee in Week 4, represents roughly $36 million in potential savings if Miami chooses to part ways. Those numbers complicate the equation. Immediate financial flexibility must be weighed against the practical contribution each player provides and the broader vision for roster construction. McDaniel encouraged his team to ignore speculation and rumor. He told reporters, "The NFL is an exhausting place if you lean into all rumors," framing the constant chatter as an unnecessary burden layered on top of weekly preparation demand. For McDaniel, the benefit of deadline week passing was the ability to concentrate fully on a familiar divisional opponent, rather than field questions about roster turnover. Despite ESPN's Football Power Index projecting Miami's playoff odds at just 0.2%, with an expected finish around 5.5 to 11 wins, veteran leaders like center Aaron Brewer rejected that pessimism publicly, insisting the team can still end 10-7. While the front office held firm on veterans, roster adjustments still had to be made to fill the gaps left behind. Miami addressed the roster spot created by the Jaelan Phillips trade by signing Andre Carter II from Detroit's practice squad. Rather than elevating one of their own practice squad defenders, Quentin Bell or Derek McClendon, the Dolphins added Carter as the fifth edge defender on the active roster, joining Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Matthew Judon, and Cameron Good. Andre Carter, too, is not the son of the former NFL defensive lineman and coach who shares his name. Carter went undrafted out of Army and spent the 2023 season with Minnesota, appearing in 12 games before moving to Las Vegas in 2024 for 3 contests. He has never started at the NFL level, and of his 233 career snaps, the majority have come on special teams. He did record a half sack during the Raiders' Week 17 victory over New Orleans last season. Carter drew attention in the 2024 preseason when he notched 2 sacks for Las Vegas. Carter's standout season came in his junior year at Army when he registered 16.5 sacks and earned third-team All-American recognition, finishing second in the FBS behind Will Anderson. Injuries limited his 2022 production to 3.5 sacks. Evaluators at the 2024 NFL Combine and in his NFL.com draft profile described Carter as long and rangy, projecting him as a situational 3-4 rush linebacker who excels on passing downs. Scouts believe he could evolve into a more complete every-down edge player if he improves his hand technique and adds strength to his frame. Miami also signed cornerback Clarence Lewis to the practice squad. Lewis entered the league as an undrafted free agent with Tennessee in 2025 after completing his final college season at Syracuse in 2024, where he started every game and recorded 41 tackles, 12 path breakups, and 1 interception, 1 return for a touchdown. Prior to Syracuse, he spent 4 seasons at Notre Dame from 2020-2023, playing in 51 games with 23 starts and compiling 124 tackles, multiple turnovers, and 3 career interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown.
Beyond immediate roster moves, a bigger question looms over the franchise's long-term direction at the most important position. The Dolphins and their supporters are beginning to confront an unavoidable reality. Tua Tagovailoa's time in Miami will likely end in 2026. The financial weight of his contract, an obligation the franchise appears unwilling or unable to sustain long-term, creates a strategic imperative. The organization must begin preparing for life after Tagovailoa, even as he remains under contract this season. That preparation has already surfaced in early draft projections. Pro Football Focus recently published a mock draft that pairs Miami with a natural fit, South Florida native Fernando Mendoza at the 4th overall selection. If that projection materializes, it would give the Dolphins an advantageous convergence of necessity, talent, and regional connection. Pro Football Focus places Mendoza at number 4, a scenario that would align favorably with Miami's anticipated draft position. PFF analyst Trevor Sikkema emphasizes Mendoza's arm strength as his most notable attribute, noting that while his big-time throw rates remain modest, 3.7% this season, 2.9% last season, his overall arm talent represents starting NFL tools, the type of developmental ceiling that draws interest from scouts and front offices. Miami's front office benefits from an unusual timeline advantage. Because Tua's dead cap consequences become more manageable after next season, the Dolphins can afford patience. They don't need to force a quarterback selection immediately if they believe the right prospect isn't available. That said, if a talent like Mendoza fell to their position at number 4, patience could quickly give way to decisive action. On paper, selecting Mendoza would address Miami's long-term need, but the team's draft position isn't finalized, and the remainder of the schedule still offers chances to shift perceptions. The Dolphins have 4 winnable games in their next 7 contests, including matchups against the Saints and Jets, and their performance in these games will directly impact where they select next April. That quarterback uncertainty isn't happening in a vacuum. League-wide moves are forcing Miami's hand sooner than expected. The Jets' dramatic deadline overhaul, trading Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams for multiple high picks and roster reinforcements, has recalibrated expectations around how aggressively franchises will pursue a long-term quarterback. New York now controls 5 first-round selections across the next 2 drafts, and analysts widely expect that capital to be deployed in securing a franchise signal caller soon. That shift intensifies the scrutiny on Miami. Despite signing Tua Tagovailoa to a 4-year, $212 million extension last year, his 2025 performance has fallen short of that investment. With 1,779 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and a league-high 11 interceptions this season, Tua's 87.6 passer rating marks the lowest of his career since his 87.1 rookie figure, a decline that has prompted ESPN's Adam Schefter to suggest Miami may be willing to trade the former number 5 overall pick next offseason to accumulate draft capital for a new franchise quarterback. On the Adam Schefter podcast, Schefter outlined the divisional context, Buffalo's Josh Allen, Drake Faye in New England, and a retooled Jets roster, and noted Miami's relative vulnerability at the position. He argued that the Dolphins could choose to convert current assets, including high-profile veterans like Bradley Chubb, who weren't moved at the deadline, into the picks necessary to pursue a top quarterback in 2026 or beyond. Miami has Tua down there. At some point in time, we'll expect them to be searching for a new quarterback, Schefter said, emphasizing how accumulated draft capital can be the critical factor. Speculation about Tua's job security has grown louder. A single poor performance could trigger conversations about benching him in favor of Zach Wilson or rookie Quinn Ewers, both of whom have seen limited action in late-game situations this season. Those internal alternatives, combined with the potential to acquire multiple premium picks, give Miami strategic options. They can pursue a gradual transition or choose to stockpile assets aimed at trading up. Several prospects are already being discussed as first-round candidates for 2026. Alabama's Ty Simpson, Oregon's Dante Moore, South Carolina's Lenora Sellers, Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, and LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. If Miami remains near its current projection, around a 4th overall pick, but desires a specific elite prospect, the team could attempt to package assets to climb to number 1, provided it can collect the kind of capital the Jets now possess. Schefter's premise is clear. If Miami concludes Tagovailoa isn't the long-term solution, the roster's current pieces can be valued and packaged to pursue that answer. Should Miami trade Tagovailoa while he still has value, or would that be a premature panic move? Do you agree with Adam Schefter's strategy of stockpiling draft picks to trade up for an elite quarterback? Or should the Dolphins ride it out with Tua and see if he rebounds? Is Fernando Mendoza the answer Miami needs at quarterback, or are the Dolphins reaching for a Waddle storyline? Do you think his arm talent is enough to justify a top 5 pick, or should Miami aim higher in the draft for a different signal caller? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Support the channel by leaving a like and subscribing. Stay one step ahead with all the latest on Dolphins. See you in the next one.